Okay, welcome everyone to our platform productivity session. Thank you for taking the time to join us today, and we hope you find it valuable. Today, we will be discussing the tools available within your platform to boost productivity, whether it's automating information sharing using your workflows, or it's bringing your paper checklist into your platform as tasks to give the whole team visibility on progress, or if it's having a dashboard ready that points you in the right direction where action is needed. These productivity tools are designed to help you get more done in less time. By making the most of these tools, you can minimize distractions and focus on the tasks that matter most. Everything that we're covering today is available in your accessplanit platform as standard, and there's no add-on modules being covered today. If you have any questions whilst we go through the session, please submit this as we go, and I will cover these at the end of the session. And finally, this session is being recorded, so it will be available to our on our on-demand webpage later if anyone needs to drop out early, or if you would like to share this with your colleagues who can't make it today. So let's have a look at today's agenda.
So today we're going to start by covering how you can use tasks as a team to stay on top of course preparation, course progress, and course completion without having to email or message each other constantly for updates. Then we'll talk about how you can use the super simple note functionality to keep your team informed of updates and keep your thoughts organized. Next, we will look at using workflows to automate communication updates to yourself and your team. And then finally, we will cover how you can use dashboards to flag activity or calls to action for you and your team.
So just a couple of quick introductions before we get into it. I am Sarah Bickerstaff, and I am one of accessplanit's best customer support advisors. I had forgotten that I'd added that to my notes there. So one of my key roles is to support you with getting to grips with your platform and any new features, answering any questions you have, supporting you with setting up those new features, and then troubleshooting any issues you may have.
And I'm Ian Brown. I am the best business operations coordinator here at accessplanit. I'm the only one. Those of you who came to Connect earlier this year might recognise me as one of the hosts. So, on to tasks. Recording and managing tasks in your accessplanit platform can be a big help towards personal and team productivity. So many training administrators are still using paper-based to-do lists or disparate systems to track their actions, which of course really doesn't support collaboration, especially now with so many people working remotely. But by bringing your task management into accessplanit, you empower your team to support one another as those task lists are shared and collaborative. And this also gives your team easy access to view progress, saving that back and forth, trying to figure out if something's been done or not done yet. There are some clever tools available in your accessplanit platform to support task management too. Tasks can be automatically generated when certain criteria is met, for example, a cancelled course or an overdue invoice, which means it's much harder for to-dos to slip through the cracks and cause you more work down the line. You can define standard tasks against individual course templates if a certain type of course always has specific jobs to be done. And for each of your tasks, you can manage the priority of them, monitor progress, move them through custom status stages, ultimately maintaining focus on getting the actions that need doing done. So I'll hand over to Sarah to show us how it's done.
Well, thank you, Ian. So let's delve into tasks then. So there are three main ways that you can create new tasks in your accessplanit platform. And the first is simple, and that is to create an ad hoc task. So creating a task, we can navigate to the tasks data grid, and you can simply click add task. You can also do this via the mini tasks data grids at course class level. So here I'm going to go to my first aid at work course, and I can actually go directly from the context menu to add a new task. So here I'm going to add the subject. Arguably most important, ensuring lunch is ordered, and then going to assign some users that are responsible for this task. So James and Tom. I can then set my schedule, setting a manual start date and due date, as well as the type of task and its priority. I then have the status of not started. I now have a task that is ready to be completed. So the second way to create a task is to create one via a course template. Now this is a task template, as it were, and this will mean that a task is scheduled each time a course is scheduled. So again, I can use from the context menu or using the mini tasks data grid. And I'm now adding a template task. So my subject is going to be the attendance list is provided. I'm assigning this to a specific user, but we can also leave this field blank if that's going to be determined later. And you'll see here, I now have the option to set the start date and due date as a function. So 1 day before the course start date. And again, my type and my status of that task. The third way is the one that I am most interested in talking to you about today, and that is creating a task via workflows. So your workflow engine can automatically create tasks when certain criteria is met or an event happens. So for example, it's been 1 day since the course end date and the course still has a status of available. You might want to generate a task to chase up your attendance marking, and if you have a field against your delegates of dietary requirements, you could chase that up too. But today we're going to do the attendance marking, and our module is going to be class course. And I'm not ready to set it active yet, so I will save that. In my settings, I want to tell the platform that the course is not in a status of completed, but that also could be that the status is in our active statuses, so available, in progress, and fully booked. So if the course is still in those statuses, 1 day after, we can trigger this workflow. So now going into the actions, we create an action of add task. So my workflow action is to create a task that the course requires the attendance list. Save that. And you'll see now I get lots of parameters to fill in. So I'm quickly just going to add the additional fields in there as well. Due date, start date, the details, and assign to users. So going through here, much like the way that emails work, we can set the action date. And we want this to be a function in that it is 1 day after our course end date. So this is going to trigger 1 day after. My account is just my training provider. My creator user is going to be the admin that creates this task. And then we can map this to the trigger object, which is going to be the course that has triggered this workflow. I can then set my priority. My progress is always going to be 0 and my status being not started. And then I can set the standard subject for this task, being that we're escalating the attendance marking. The type of the task in that it is a follow-up on the course admin, and then some further details on what needs doing. And then again, with our due date and our start date, we can use that function to be a due date of 1 day after our end date and the start date of 1 day after. We have then decided to be a little bit more generous and give them 2 days after the end date of the due date, just so that task isn't starting and due on the same day. We've got to give somebody the opportunity to be successful, and then it is assigned to pen there. So now I've saved my task and I'm ready to set this to active. So now once a course is in the past and does not have a status of completed, it's going to trigger this task to be completed and our admin team can follow that up. Okay. So streamlining our task management, we can now create task types and task statuses. So under profile and administration again, I'm going to be looking at our custom list items. Now, this allows us to configure the platform to be more in line with your ways of working. So I may want to add in a new task status that allows another step to that task progression. So if I'm going to add in my item type now of task status, sorry, and this is going to be awaiting approval, make sure that's enabled and then save. You can see that in the list. And now when I go to create a task, I will have awaiting approval available to me as a status to choose. So again, we can then trigger things based from that, and you can also use your Kanban boards, which I'll mention very shortly, to manage those statuses. So giving yourself a clearer view of your tasks, in the task data grid on the left-hand navigation menu, I can filter this data grid to show only tasks that are assigned to me. So that will give me that list view. What we also have is the board view. Now this gives a much more visual representation of your tasks, and we have those swim lanes where we can drag and drop our tasks between the different statuses. And you can also order your different statuses there, so you can see a nice clear progression of what needs doing. You see, as we're moving them, that is changing the status, and you can then double click on your task to find out more information and also update that. Okay. And the final thing for me is a top tip on tasks today. So my hot tip would be to not create a task for everything that you need to do. We recommend only creating tasks for jobs that you need to be reminded of, or tasks that need other team members to have visibility of. Otherwise, this can actually become an admin burden to stay on top of, rather than it supporting you in the way it's designed for. It's easy to get sort of a big long list of tasks, and then the important stuff gets drowned out. Sorry. So I suggest sometimes, if you do want to track everything, you can add multiple tasks into one task within the platform. So that might be checking your dietary requirements, ordering your lunch, and then setting up the meeting room for catering. You can add those all into one and then use your progress and the progress percentage to mark that throughout the progression of the task.
Lovely. Thank you, Sarah. Now on to our next section, notes. So as with tasks, notes can also really help personal and team productivity. Notes are used to capture thoughts, ideas, updates, and important information against the relevant item in your accessplanit platform. This makes it easy to access and refer back to your notes whenever needed, which means you never miss an important detail. Notes are visible to yourself, other administrators, and sometimes trainers as well, which means you can collaborate more easily with your full team and reduce the amount of update requests through from everyone by recording notes and keeping everyone better informed. Let's take a look at them in action.
Thanks, Ian. So let's get started with the basics and look at how notes are logged. This is definitely one of the quickest actions you can perform in your accessplanit platform. So to log a note, you simply navigate to your notes section. So whether that is against a course template or a course, and I can right click, and much like with tasks, I can actually access that directly from the context menu and click add. Once I click add, it shows what area I've mapped to, and like with tasks, I can set different types. and I can see that this course is now accredited. Simple as that. I now have a note against that template that my other administrators can view. Moving on now to add a note to a course. Again, I can go directly from the context menu or open up the mini note data grid, add a note from here, select my type of note, add in any additional information like Penny has replaced John as the trainer, and that is now available against my course template, my course, and in that main notes data grid there. You can see those created. It is also important to keep your trainers aware of certain notes within there. Oh, I'm skipping ahead already. Actually, like with tasks and notes, you can create your own note types. So I'm going to create a new note type today. And that is going to be of administrative updates. Again, making sure that's enabled. And now when I go to create a new note, that will be available. So looking now at all of my note types together, I can see those in the data grid, finance notes, trainer notes, etc. And that can help me filter and make sure I'm looking at the right types of notes. And as I said, when I create a new note now, I have the option for administrative updates. So as I tried to skip to before, you can make your notes available to your trainers. So there may be a time when you need to communicate information about the course to your trainer. So when we add a note against a course date, there is an additional section that's not available in any other area, and that is the access. So you'll see here we're going to have course date information note. We've updated the agenda and the slide deck, and then we have the access section. This is where we can tick and make this available to our trainers. So now my Penny has replaced John is just for our training admins, and my updated agenda can also be shared with my trainers. So we can take a look at what that looks like for a trainer. So I am now logged in as Peter Jones. Looking at that mental wellbeing course, I can now view the notes, and I can see any notes that an admin has given me access to. This also means that your trainers can create notes that are available to you, so they can communicate perhaps about a troublesome delegate or something that's happened within that day. Okay.
So, on to our next section, workflows. Workflows are often looked at as being the way to automatically communicate with your customers. For example, booking confirmation emails, course reminder emails, cancellation and transfer confirmations, certification, expiring awards, the list goes on. But very often, internal teams are overlooked when it comes to automatic comms. Does anyone in your team need to know when a course is cancelled? When an invoice is overdue? Would anyone benefit from an email summarising all of the courses running today? Or would anyone get use out of an email summarising each course and flagging missing information? Sarah's going to take us through a few of the ways you can make workflows work for your team too.
Certainly am. So let's get started on how we can use workflows to flag gaps in our data. So I'm going to show you a workflow that's been set up to send before a web course runs. So the admins can easily check the webinar information has been populated, there's a trainer assigned, and so on. So to look at this, we're going to look again in profile administration and then workflows. And then I'm going to look at my emails prefixed with admin there. So admin upcoming webinars. So this is going to send an email 5 days before a webinar runs. So firstly, the module is web course. This is related to our web-based courses. The settings are similar, that they are in fully booked, in progress, and available. So we're looking at active courses. And then our action is going to send an email 5 days before that course date. So again, we're using that function 5 days before the start date. And you can see we've got this set to send to a constant email address of our training company. So that can just be our shared admin inbox, and that will send 5 days. So we'll have a look at what that template looks like now. So if I preview against a web course, so Introduction to Management, I can now see the course name, the date the course is running, how many delegates are available, and I can also clearly see that the web joining instructions are available in there, and there is a trainer. So my admins can relax now knowing that that webinar in 5 days' time has got all the information it needs to be successful. So moving on now to course alerts. So cancelled courses, overcapacity, or courses making a loss. So let's have a look at one of those. So now coming into our admin cancelled class course alert, I'll give you a spoiler on what this is going to do. It's going to send an admin alert for a cancelled course. Again, this module is in class course. My settings are going to be that my course status is in cancelled, and that second filter there is just preventing it sending multiples for a second course. So coming into my actions now, I can edit and have a look at this. So this is now set to send 2 minutes after current date time. Current date time is just the time that course went into a status of cancelled. And you can see I've used a number of fields here: the administrator against the course, the trainer of the course, and the training provider. So looking at what that looks like, we're going to imagine this mental wellbeing course has just been cancelled. And this can alert our admin team and the trainer that the mental wellbeing course on Monday, the 16th of December is now no longer going ahead. And then next up is customer activity. So perhaps an inquiry has been submitted or an invoice is overdue. So we're looking at now at our paying user invoice overdue email. So looking again at my details page, my module is invoice. The status of my invoice is in outstanding or part completed. So it's not completed. It's still left to pay, and the due date is in the past. So you can see we've got a notification to send to the paying user, the person who needs to pay the invoice, but we can also send a secondary email to our admin team. And you'll see 1 day after the day due, it's sending, and it's static emails again to our billing training company email and also that shared training inbox. Preview object is going to be an outstanding invoice. And that email just gives me details of the invoice, the customer that invoice is for, and I also have a link into view the actual invoice itself. And then finally, we've got our daily course summaries. This is one of my favorites because we get to use the new functionality of consolidate email. So looking at our admin courses running today, This is going to send an email every morning with the details of the courses running that day. So looking at our module, this is in course because we don't mind if it's a webinar or a class-based course. Again, our course status is in fully booked, in progress or available. So it's not cancelled or completed. And then our actions is going to send an email here. So this is where we're going to use a fixed time. So a fixed time of 7:30 a.m. on the start date of the course, we're going to send this email. And again, that's going to our shared training inbox and also directly to Jane. And then this is where we can use our consolidate multiple emails. So a few months ago, you would have got an individual email for each course that was running, which could have been a fairly inbox heavy day if you were running more than, say, 5 courses. So we've got the option to consolidate those all into one, where you will get a breakdown of the course information. So selecting a couple of courses now to view what that summary would look like. Again, we're going to use our imagination that these are running on the same day. We've got our singular email, so if we did just have one, it would look like that. But with our consolidated email, you then get a list of the courses that are running, and then we've got lots of information about those courses available. So the number of delegates booked, the fill rate of the course, whether there's unallocated resources, loads more information in there, and it gives your admin team those key highlights about what's going on in the day. Okay.
And last but not least, our final topic of the day is dashboards. Dashboards are the first thing you see when you get logged into the platform in the morning. Setting up a dashboard that saves you digging around for information, saves you checking through courses, invoices, customer information, whatever you need to organise your workday, can honestly save hours. We recommend having at least one dashboard area that focuses on gaps and flags. So gaps are things like upcoming courses that are missing something, for example, a venue, delegates that haven't supplied their dietary requirements, placeholders that have still got places to assign, and then flags, things like low enrolment numbers on upcoming courses, or absenteeism, people are registering but they're not turning up, and of course, negative feedback. Good dashboards are such a personal thing, so finding the right gadgets to shape and support your workday will probably be different to everyone else watching this, but we're going to go over some examples to hopefully provide you with a little bit of inspiration.
So before we start, dashboards are definitely one of my favourite areas of the platform because they can add such insight into your day. So I'm going to go through a few examples of what the dashboards can look like. So starting with our different types of gadgets, we have our data grid gadgets here, and you can see we've got a gaps and flags named dashboard. So looking at our first data grid, checking for gaps. So we've got the venue, trainer name and room layout. So this is highlighting to me that quite a few of our courses don't have venues. Now, it may be that some of these are online and we need to move them over to web. It may be that we haven't arranged our resource allocation yet, which is absolutely fine. Then we've got our courses missing the trainer, and then all of our courses are currently missing a room layout. You'll see then that that information is also reflected in our statistic gadgets down the right-hand side. So rather than having to get in and drill into this detail straight away, we can scan down the right-hand side and immediately see where we might need to take some action there. And then at the bottom here, we have placeholders with places still to assign. So you can see we've got our placeholders and unused spots within those placeholders. So similarly to this, we've got some flagging issues of type gadgets. So this one's a little bit more red in colour because these are known as our issues. So courses with low enrolment numbers. So you can see we've got our flag here that there's 0 delegates booked on our course. So this is showing me that we've got 9 courses that have got low enrolment numbers. So whether we need to look at increasing the marketing on those courses, or whether it's worth us just taking that course off and directing our resource elsewhere. And again, down the left-hand side, I have my statistic gadgets that can highlight specific things, like I've got 16 overdue invoices. I only had one delegate not attend last week, but I've had 7 cancelled this month. So I can then go and dig into that and find more information. And then at the last step here, we've got our course evaluations. So I can see which of our users have filled in their evaluations. And then finally, just getting an overview of the activity on your dashboard. So this one is nice, broad. We've got our recent note activity, so the new notes that we've created. And you can see I've created 3 notes today. Then we have another statistic gadget showing our overdue tasks. And at the bottom there, I have a breakdown of those tasks that are overdue. So I've got 1 task out of my 6 that's already in progress. So I might not need to chase that one. Someone is already working on it. But I need to look into these 5 tasks that are overdue and haven't been started yet. Okay.
Thank you, Sarah. Some great examples there. So here's a quick recap of everything we have covered today. So first of all, we stayed on top of course prep and progress with tasks. Then we showed you how to keep your team informed with notes. We went over automating updates to your team with workflows. And finally, how to flag a need for action with dashboards.
Okay, so are there any productivity tools that you'll be trying after today? So if you are going to pop them in the chat now and let us know if there's any of these tools that you're going to be trying for yourself. So all of the features and functionality, as I mentioned, is already available in your platform. The one thing you might notice is the workflow action of create note and task is not available. If you do notice that, get in touch with the support team and we will happily enable it for you. So we're just going to open up the Q&A now. So I did see one question come in about dashboards and whether they are available to share, and the answer is yes. We have 2 different areas where you can create a dashboard, one on your main homepage, and the second is tucked away in administration. So you can access that within administration, share that dashboard between all of your training administrators, and they will have access to that. I've also seen a couple of people saying that they are interested in using the tasks a little bit more, and my eyes are lighting up because I know that a few people are looking at the different gadgets that they might be using. So I'm hoping to get some support tickets on those shortly. Okay, so I'll just give an extra minute for any other questions. Okay. Doesn't look like we've got any more, so we must have answered them throughout our session. So I'm going to pop up now just the upcoming events we have. But if you do have any other questions, pop them in now. So our upcoming events, we've got our data grid session with our very own Hannah and Sean on the 22nd of August. We then have searching and navigating in your platform with Stuart on the 3rd. And then centralising your communications with myself and my colleague, Sean. Okay, thank you so much for joining us. I'll just pop a little bit of information on custom webinars up there as well. So we do have that option to have custom training available for you. So get in touch if you are interested in those. But thank you very much for joining.
Thank you.